Hey guys, how you doing? It is Wednesday again. Man, the weeks go by so fast. So I ran across this video. There's a couple of brand name people out there that have been on YouTube for a while, and I've hit on a couple of them already. Um, the last one I did last Wednesday was Matt. I don't want to mess up his name, so anyway, you can watch that video. This guy or this company is Zem Construction, and I've seen their videos pop up on my feed from time to time through the years, so I know they've been around for a while. Now, specifically, the reason I'm going to pick on these guys because they're Zem Construction. They are a company, you see. When I started these videos, these critique videos a couple of months ago, I basically was saying at the time, and I reiterate on every video, that I'm not trying to pick on a homeowner. Somebody, a DIYer homeowner that's trying to do for themselves, I'm not trying to pick on them. What I'm specifically looking at is a YouTuber who has a lot of subscribers who puts out bad information, or a YouTuber who has a lot of views on any given video that they're putting out bad information. And a couple Wednesdays ago and prior to that, I did a couple of videos where I didn't really clap back too bad on the homeowner because it was a homeowner, and I said, gave him a thumbs up because he did a good job. These guys should know better. There are some things in there that these guys are doing that they should know better. I'm just going to leave it at that. So I'm going to let the video play, but it's kind of long. I think this video is like 25 minutes long, and by the time I add my 2 cents worth, it's not going to be 25 minutes. It's going to be like 55 minutes or whatever. So I'm going to just try and hit on the really important things rather than the nitpicky things. I might stop and I might chime in on the little nitpicky things and just, like just a quick, but then I will stop on something that kind of matters and I will talk a little bit longer. So let me go ahead and let this guy do his talking.
Hey guys, Zach here with Zem Construction, bringing you another remodel project. In this video, I'm going to show you from beginning to end a bathroom that we recently finished up. I just want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who left me some feedback about narrating versus just letting the time-lapse play out. Overwhelmingly, you guys enjoyed the narration and me talking through the project, so I'm going to do that this time. The goals for this bathroom were to have it be a shower wheelchair accessible bathroom. The story is quite heartwarming. The client of mine is doing this all for her mother, who was possible. Okay. It's quite unfortunate during the process of this, they only have one bathroom on their property. And so for the last 3 months, they've had a porta potty on the outside of their house in the
Okay, so for those of you that don't know what they're looking at,
driveway.
For those of you that don't know what they're looking at, he's going to do a curbless shower in here. So he said wheelchair accessible shower, right? And so what they're doing is they're basically lowering, it's hard to explain, but basically they're putting studs in next to the existing floor joist, a little bit lower than where the floor joists are at, so that they could retrofit some pieces of plywood into those square rectangular areas, and thereby making the floor lower than the rest of the outside floor. However, they were dealing with slat board. See that slat board on the top left corner? That slat board is back in the day. That's, like 50s, 60s, 70s type of thing, and prior to that. So that slat board should all come out. And because I've watched the video already, I know that they're going to have a little closet space over there, but that's going to be a really, really tight squeeze at 18, 20 inches if they have to get in there to take off the rest of the board. Like when they did the demo part, they should have just demoed all of that slat board from the get-go, because they're going to put in plywood over this area and you're not going to see plywood go into that little slot. So it kind of sort of matters.
So just imagine what they had to go through in order to do this project. She was hoping to get this project done by herself and had several people that were going to help her out, and all of those contacts ended up falling through, unfortunately, and it got to the point where she needed to bring in someone and get it done as quick as possible, because the 3 to 4 month time period was just not working for them. So here I am putting in some more of The subfloor cut out individual slats, and of course everything is glued and screwed down very securely.
I don't see any point in putting a secondary layer of plywood on there, but okay.
We also included a small bench that was more used as an accessory platform or a small shelf. It was only 7 inches wide. We wanted to leave as much space for the shower wheelchair to be able to go in there and roll around. We wanted to do a big dividing wall because, of course, no door in this. We didn't want anything that would obstruct the shower wheelchair to roll in there. So here we are putting in the half wall, reinforced to all the studs and joists. One of the main design elements that my client wanted to add was the glass blocks. So there's several different places we included these glass blocks, as you will see here in a little bit. But in this case, the best route to take was we actually made the glass block windows separately.
You know, I did showers back in the day. I did at least 3 showers back in the day, 20 plus years ago, with glass block walls. Like, that's so cool. It's so 80s. It's like you can't go to Home Depot and find these glass block anymore. He's claiming that he found them at Lowe's, but I'm going to skip ahead of this because he talks about glass block a lot and where they're going to put the glass block, and you're going to see it at the end anyway. Let me see if I can skip ahead. Yeah, so he's back into the shower again. Let me get back to glass block. They're going to go in that back window. They're reframing that window. I'll let them talk.
Old window. So we actually removed the old window completely, redid all the framing to include those glass blocks, as well as included a small shampoo shower niche. So here I am adding some of the framing in order to put the glass block window in. We of course went from the outside and made sure everything was sealed and insulated, cleared. The third spot that you will see here is actually in the exterior wall above the main door in the bathroom. So here we are adding some blocking around the shower pan so that the pan liner does not just fall into the walls, has a place to be secured to and waterproofed. And of course, after the pre-slope, we added a pan liner. And of course, after
let me go back to this. If you look on that video, right where his left hand, where that yellow hammer or something, so the buildup that they have on the floor, I believe, because he didn't mention it, he ran through this video quickly, but I believe that subfloor is a floated floor, because the floated floor back in the day is usually about 2 inches. Like it's a lot of mortar that they put in there, and they bedded it into lathe that they stapled to the floor. They had tar paper, and then lathe, and then the float would go on the floor. So I believe they left the outside floor, I want to say, in order to get that rise, because I don't understand how 2 sheets of plywood, well, to be fair, the first sheet of plywood was between the floor joists, and the second sheet was on top of that. And they could have just easily used like 1/4-inch Durarock or something like that on the top of there. But I'm not quite sure how they got the rise to make this a curbless shower. And I don't think the answer came along later, but yeah.
Pre-slope, we added a pan liner.
Okay, after we did the pre-slope, we added a pan liner. Now, understand something, spoiler alert, they're going to waterproof the entirety of the shower. Like the floor, the walls, everything. So the pre-slope is absolutely 100% unneeded. And I never saw them do the pre-slope. I don't think they put one in, but okay.
This was attached all the way around and of course glued to the 3-piece drain that we used.
Okay, another thing too, when I did my first couple of curbless showers, I did the same thing he's doing. I let my pan liner come outside of the shower. It looks like he's got about 2 feet of pan liner, 2.5 feet of pan liner outside of the shower. But you cannot attach that to the outside of the shower floor. Like, I struggled to figure out, how am I going to attach this? And I ended up using, what did I use? I think I used some silicone, like I spread silicone on the outside floor, and then I put that flap of pan liner over the top of it. And then I still had to put my Durarock on top of that and ultimately nail down into the Durarock into the pan liner. So it didn't really do any good. What I would suggest that he does, and he doesn't do it later on, is red guard. Anytime, my mantra is anytime I do a curbless shower, the entirety of the bathroom floor gets red guarded. 2 coats of red guard. Because just in case water goes outside, it's going to get through the tile and into the subfloor and all that stuff, and I want to prevent that. So that's the easiest way to go about that.
We also added cement board on the floor, and here I am mixing up the dry pack mud for the
dry pack mud. Okay, watch this.
Shower pan. The mud got a little bit wetter than I wanted to, but it
you think? It's not quite a dry pack, but it's okay. You know, like I try and push back on that dry pack theory anyway. You know, this mortar pan will dry and do what it's supposed to do as wet as it is. So, you know, no harm, no foul.
It all actually worked out great in the end. Making sure to add that 1/4 inch per foot of slope to for proper drainage. It's one of the design elements that the client really wanted to include over the shower niches, where we added one underneath the blocking in the window as well as another one on the half wall. She really liked the arch look with the tile, which added for quite a bit of intricate tile work, but in the end it turned out great. Here we are adding all of the Durarock cement board, a huge design piece that she really loved that she's seen on some of her travels around the world was the floor to ceiling tile look. So the entire bathroom is going to be covered in tile from floor to ceiling, all 4 walls, even up and around the door. As you can see, we're putting all that stuff in, and those of you eagle-eyed viewers will notice we forgot.
Yeah, the eagle eye is that there is no insulation in the wall, so they put the Durarock up on the walls, and then oops, they forgot to put the insulation in. So he talks about they put it in later. But let me talk about this floor to ceiling tile that they're going to do. Where he said that in her travels she's seen this. Yes, in Southeast Asia and a lot of different countries in the Caribbean, they're going to have what's called a wet room. So the tile is literally on the floor, to the wall, to the ceiling, like everywhere. So that you could have a fire hose in there and spray around, and you're not going to ruin anything, except maybe the vanity. So that's a good point. I'm going to fast forward through this part.
To add insulation back in on this interior wall, but don't worry, we had plenty, so we ended up just keep using that. And of course, after the Durarock was all installed, we added the mesh tape around all the joints. And then used a quick drying thin set as a barrier for sealing up all of those seams and joints.
Small thing, but I'm going to chime in on it. See all the stickers on all the Durarock? Every single one of those sheets, those stickers stayed on, even through the tiling. Small thing, but I thought I'd mention it.
Here are a couple pictures of where we were at. She was getting very excited. This is one of the most rewarding projects ever. Just rewarding to have her see each step. This was the Durarock and Red Guard. Red Guard is a product you can purchase from Home Depot. Works great. All of the joints and corners got 3 coats brushed on, while all of the surfaces actually get rolled on in 2 coats on that. And it's quite easy to install. Pretty straightforward. It's very, very similar to painting, except you do not need to be as precise.
Let me stop it here. On Durarock, you have a rough side and a smooth side. So the rough side is supposed to be out. You see the sticker that he painted over down by where his knee is at. The sticker. Why did you leave the stickers on all the Durarock? That's so crazy. The rough side is supposed to be facing out because Durarock, they want the thin set to get embedded into that rough side of your Durarock, and then when your tile goes on there, it's a nice tight bond. Having said that, it doesn't matter when you waterproof. When you use a liquid waterproofer, or even if they had gone in with Curdy, it doesn't really matter that the rough side is out. They should have flipped all of their boards to the smooth side. The reason being is when you try and apply Red Guard onto that rough side, trust me, it's going to take 3 or 4 coats for you to get in every little nook and cranny. it would have been a lot easier to red guard the smooth side than the rough side. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that there's a rough side on it because you've got red guard on it. So I just want to mention that.
Precise. It is all going to get covered up. You can see here it painted on the first coat of all the joints, and then I go back and roll everything on, and then just continue the process until each spot has their desired coverage. Here is the last coat all finished up and looks quite pink, but what's great about this product is that you know exactly when it's dry, as it turns a dark deep red, as you can see right here. So what's great about Red Guard is when it's all finished and dried, you could actually shower right now as is. It's completely waterproof. The tile at this point is just a great way to divert some of that water, and of course it looks nice and adds for the longevity of the shower. So we're starting.
Right. So what he said, and let me go back on here because I don't think I caught it on the Durarock thing. So hold on a second.
And zucchini bread fresh from the garden, and what an incredible experience. So it was really, really rewarding to have her see each step of the process and what was involved. So of course we left a gap between the bottom of the shower pan, or the top of the shower pan, and the bottom.
Okay, put a bookmark there. Put a bookmark. What he said at the end of the Red Guard was that you could use this shower, that it's functional the way it is right then. That tile is just basically a wall covering. That's my mantra. That's what I talk about. Second thing, he said that he raised the wallboard. He had a gap down there at the bottom. That's my mantra. I raised my wallboard, and I was the first one started doing that. So that's the second thing. Put a bookmark there, right? And Red Guard itself. Put a bookmark there. 3 things.
Bottom of the cement board. I'm not going to go into has their turned out really nice. Pretty small intricate pieces. Try to make everything look great, and each grout line is lined up perfectly. You might be able to see on the right side of the screen a green laser line. And is one of the most crucial tools, in my opinion, on making sure that all your tiles are straight and grout lines match up. By having this tool makes it so much easier. You can set your first row and then line up the laser on the grout line that you want to match up, and then every row after that has a great starting point. Of course, every single tile in the bathroom is back buttered, which that means the thin set is applied to the wall, as well as a small thin layer tied to the back of the tile, so that when they are pressed together, there's complete coverage all the way around. After the first several rows had some time to dry, now I'm going through and adding the mosaic stripe. Process is pretty nice. Each piece lines up with the one previous, so work your way around, cut around the corners.
Okay, 2 things about this. One, the sticker is still on the Durarock. He's going to thin set and tile over the sticker, which is still kind of weird. But the other thing is, if you look closely, and I can't blow up this picture, but if you look closely, you're going to see it toward the end. The mosaic, what he calls strip, okay, we call a border, that mosaic border is sunk in. So there's lippage from the field tile to the border, which doesn't make any sense. Because what we would do with a mosaic, which is usually thinner than your field tile, is that we would, to bump it out, we would have 1/4 inch Durarock or 1/4 inch Hardyback or whatever you decided to use. That 1/4 inch board would go in there, that little 6-inch spot, glued to the Durarock, and now you bumped it out. And there are some guys that'll actually use other material. What is it? I saw somebody use. But anyway, other material that you could use to put back there. When you see the final product, it just grates on my nerves a little bit that there's that much lippage on the border.
And the stripe needs some time to dry. I could go through and add. This leveling system makes our lives so much easier. So one of the main features is that they did not want to include a vanity or sink actually in the process. Was making sure that the tile from one side of the dividing wall lined up perfectly with the other side. And you can see there I actually miscut a piece and had to recut it. Made an archway, as you can see right there, that tile. And unfortunately, the camera stopped recording at that point, to finish up this wall, but I really wanted to highlight that one of my favorite parts was around all those glass block niches in the above the doorway. So because there was so much surface area and so much grouting to do, we actually started some of the grouting process while I hit the wall and drip down. We'll then just drip straight down to the floor and go right into the drain, as opposed to going down in between the floor tile and the wall itself. One of the main goals in building this bathroom was that when the house ever gets to be sold or the design needs to be changed, to not necessarily allow for just wheelchair accessibility, was we wanted to design it so we can make those changes. So eventually someday we could easily add a glass door to this shower, and as well bring in the sink and vanity back into where they would traditionally go. All of those things would be fairly easy to get done. So here I am putting in the Pebble shower floor. Pebbles are great, minimal cutting. Have a couple spare sheets, and you can literally just cut out the ones that you don't want and insert the small pieces and small rocks where you need to go. The goal is to try to make as few cuts as possible to make it look natural, that all of the pieces were meant to go there. So first I did a quick layout of where I wanted everything to go, and removed everything and brought each section in piece by piece to ensure perfect coverage and alignment throughout the entire floor. An element that we wanted to keep consistent was the grout color. So the same grout color is throughout the entire bathroom. So the tile floor, the walls, the mosaic, and the Pebble shower floor. So the client picked a color that she felt worked well with all of those. I think that choice looked great.
Sorry about all the hiccups on the video. I don't know why StreamYard, which is basically what I'm using to record this video, sometimes there's a hiccup on it. So not only am I skipping through some of the boring part, because arguably it is a little boring, I've already kind of commented on my critique, and I'm going to get back to that at the end here.
We added some grout to the outside of the Pebble floor so that the wall of the shower could be put on top. Again, like I mentioned before, any water that does drip down the wall will hit that tile floor and then hopefully work its way to the drain, as opposed to seeping its way up underneath. Of course, tile is back buttered. Like I said before, the floor was not perfectly level and flat, so these pieces were quite custom in order to fit along these ebbs and flows of the floor, but also to look nice and finish up that grout line along the pieces that go above it. We drilled out a nice hole for the toilet water supply. Try to make that as seamless as possible. Again, one of the great tools to use when adding in intricate tile pieces like this is you put the tile backwards and mark each side. Then when you bring in the tile after it's been cut, it lines up perfectly by flipping the tile over. Again, there's videos all over YouTube showing this process and the benefits of doing it that way. So here we are. Now that all of the tile is finally set, we are going through and getting everything grouted up and getting ready to be finished.
Okay, I'm stopping it there. Look at the lippage. Look at right above the border. That overhang, which we call lippage, is so bad, because you're seeing the factory edge of the tile on both the top and the bottom. I don't like that at all. Like, as good as they purport that they are, you know, it, and this is kind of a cheesy tile. The reason that I know it's a cheesy tile is the rounded edge. These are 12 by 24 that have a rounded edge, so they are not in any way, shape, or form rectified, meaning that every tile doesn't match every tile, and they're a little bent. You see where that grout line is on, I wish I could point to it on camera. The grout line at the bottom, the second one up on the left bottom corner of that tile. See how the tile is kind of bent inward? You run into that, you start noticing that when you grout, because there's a little bit of extra grout there because there's an indentation of the tile because the tile is bent. It's a cheap tile. But they used leveling clips, so I don't know how they ended up, with those bends of the tile still. It's just a cheap tile. But that border with all oof, that's bad.
Of course, after all of the grout was done and dried, we went back with a sealer, the 511 impregnator. Works great. So another aspect of the job was finishing up the trim work around what used to be a closet, but now detail around each of those blocks that were included. This works great. Right in there, makes it really nice. Her mom can just lean right over, brush her handle. Everything was all installed, testing it out. As you can see there's the little bench. We used some of the same floor tile for the top of the bench, the niche, the block wall, all the way around. The wood look floor. And then they're going to add a shelf or an armoire type scenario there so that they could do their morning routines and things like that. This project was ridiculously fun, quite challenging. There were some new aspects to the job, and overall it turned out great. The client was ecstatic. They were using it as soon as the grout sealer was dry, and they're just beyond ecstatic. I was so grateful to be able to be a part of this project and help them out and get this thing finished. The design turned out great. I have to say the client had a great eye, and working together with her throughout the design process was great, very rewarding to see all of her ideas and design come to fruition. It turned out clean, straight, but had that warm Spanish feel is kind of what she was going for. I think it worked great. So I just want to thank you so much for watching this video. And if you guys have any comments or questions or feedback, I'd greatly appreciate it if you left those down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, some project time lapses, I have several kitchens, bathrooms, and basements coming up. So if you would please hit that subscribe button. And also, I post videos as often as I can. Remodels only can go so quickly. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that little bell so that when I do post, you get that notification. Thanks so much again, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch.
Okay, so let me go back. There's one more thing I want to talk about. See that shower valve? That throws me because I'm a symmetrical type of guy, right? Like if because they did a lot of pre-planning on the shower and all the tile and where things would line up and all that stuff. Obviously they had to, because the entirety of the bathroom was tile, so they had to know all their lines. If you know your lines already and you install the valve, which you did, why is the valve not center of, I don't know. It's a small thing because I can see now the discussion plate would not take up, the discussion plate is wider than what their border is, but they could have made their border wider because those are 12 by 12 sheets, and they cut it in half and made 6-inch border, but it could have been an 8-inch border. I don't know. It's a small detail. It's almost like it's the same as the lippage compared to where the border is at. I don't like the field tile overhanging. They're little tiny details, but the main thing I want to talk about is, hold on, let me bring myself up. The main thing I want to talk about, when you are a construction company, Zem Construction, and there are certain things that you're doing that like, for example, with the floor, when he started the floor, like he's putting all this blocking in here and all this stuff and putting a second layer of plywood on there, it makes no sense. And you're not taking out all of that slat board off to the left. I don't know when they did that, but they just left that, and that would be during the prep construction process. But it looks like they did their whole shower pan and forgot that little area over there, until later, and then they never really showed what they did to remediate that area. That was kind of weird. Then you supposedly did a pre-slope where absolutely I know for a fact that you didn't do a pre-slope because you wouldn't have had the room for it. 100% they didn't do a pre-slope on that shower. You wouldn't have had the room for it. And more importantly, you have a shower that's starting up here and going down to here. So your pre-slope was already integrated into your shower to begin with. Like literally all your mortar and all that stuff is not getting wet because you waterproof the entirety. Let me talk about another thing too, because he said it and I skipped parts of the video because the video is, like I said, 26 minutes long, and then I had to chime in and all that stuff. There was a part in there where he said, you know, and some of these things I kind of learned from a couple other YouTubers, and I'm going to do a shout out in the comment section, you know, later on, or in the description later on. So just out of curiosity, before I started this video, because I never went to look the shout outs that were done, the one thing that he talked about was when he red guard. First of all, he used red guard, and I'm kind of known as a red guard guy. I don't know why. Then he talked about now this shower is functional with no tile on it, which I say all the time. Then he talked about raising the wall board off of the shower pan floor, which I do. And then the last thing, which I didn't chime in about, is how you turn the tile backwards and mark it on the edge. And then when you cut that cut and you put it back, like it fits like a glove. And that's what I do. And I've said that on many of my videos. So he's kind of talking about all the things that I do, including red guard. But guess what he does? He shouts out. let me show you so you can see it better. When he shouted out to Sal de Blasi and Isaac Ostrom. All right, like he didn't shout out to me when he used all of my methods, but he didn't shout out to me. It's you know, it's not a big deal.
It worked great. So I just want to thank you so much for watching this video. And if you guys have any,
I don't know, that grout line on that right corner there, that looks huge, doesn't it? You know, because you compare it to the grout line near where the window is at, like I don't think it's a camera effect or something. I think that tile was cut too short, because that's a huge grout line. I don't, you know, I'm not going to be too hard on these guys because they meant well. I mean, you know, the little story that they had about the women they're working for and how they're doing this shower for the mom who needs wheelchair access and all that stuff. I don't want to diminish that they still got paid. They didn't do a good deed. They still got paid for the job, but the job should have been better than this. Like, honestly, if you're going to put out there a video about building a shower and you're calling yourself a construction company, then some of these small details matter. Even, I know I talked about it a lot, the stickers on the Durarock. Why not take the stickers off? Why are you red guarding over the stickers? Why are you tiling over the stickers? For that little area, that little 6x4 sticker area, there's not going to be any thin set. It's small details, but all those small details matter when you put yourself out as a construction company. That's all I'm saying.
comments or questions or feedback, I'd greatly appreciate it if you left those down in the comments section below.
I did better than that. My feedback is right here. So I'm going to stop this video because I'm already past the 30-minute mark. And I, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to beat these guys up too bad, but it's, you know, for me, when I look at, back in the day when I was doing a lot of critique videos of the jobs that I was going to do, you know, when I would talk about this shower was built wrong and this is the reason why and blah, blah, blah. And he, you know, he didn't do right here and didn't right there, blah, blah, blah. It was usually the small stuff when I started out. It's like, oh, these tiles don't match, or the grout line is too big, or da da da. When I saw the surface of everything, it already let me know that everything below it was screwed up. So I would always start with the surface level, and I would always kind of, like, every shower I go into to take apart, I always look at it to see what their skill set was, to see how well they could tile, would tell me what the prep was going to be like. Arguably, these guys did a pretty good job on the prep. Sort of. except for the little white lies that he told about doing the pre-slope and, you know, some other stuff. But the appearance of the job itself, if I knew nothing about the construction of the job, let's say the prep was done, you know, on point. Let's say you agree with all of his prep and all that stuff. Cool. And then the lady calls me 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or a new homeowner calls me and has me come to look at that job. The first thing I would look at is all the lippage around the border. And I'm like, oh, that's not a professional. And then I would look at the huge grout lines in the corner and a couple of other things that I could probably nitpick at. But that would let me know, that would give me the information that I know that, oh, this is going to be an easy tear out because they did it wrong. He didn't do it wrong. He tiled well. He talked about back buttering and doing all the stuff that, you know, you should be doing. But the appearance of the shower, I mean, besides the look of it and besides, you know, like bullnose wrap around the niche and all that stuff, I haven't been doing bullnose for at least 10 years. And I think this video is only about 4 years old. But then again, I can't talk too bad about the material, that which you can see, because that's always my customer's choice. It's not mine. And I've done some horrible looking tile that my customer chose, and that's what I'm stuck with. So I'm not going to give him a hard time about that. But chime in on what you guys think. Am I being too hard on this guy, Zem Construction, or am I nitpicking? I mean, you know, like, let me know what you think. And I'll have a video coming up on Friday, a normal video, one of mine. Anyway, guys, have the rest of the week. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're going to call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.